Hi, welcome to the Coffee Chat Show here on Buzzing Pattaya. And today, what better day to come up to the old Siam Country Golf Course with a very good friend of mine here, Tyrone. And Tyrone, welcome to the show, buddy.
Cool, nice to be here, man, as always.
Right. He's not a bad golfer, he's all right, he's okay. But before we dig into all the golfing stuff, I mean, thank you very much for taking the time for coming and having a chat with us here on the channel. I mean, Tyrone, tell me a bit about yourself. I mean, how long have you been here now in Thailand?
In Thailand, I've been here now 15 years.
15 years.
Yeah,
now,
long time.
I have to say, and this is a bit begrudging because I have to say it, but you're not bad in the old Thai language either, are you?
Yeah, I'm all right.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I was good, and then I sit with Tara and I'm like, okay, it's back to school then. I mean, one of the questions I always get asked is it easy to learn Thai? But I mean, your level of Thai is extremely good. I mean, is there any tips you can say, guys out there, if you want to learn this language, what did you find was the key to success? Because you really are like a whole new level.
Cheers. No, I think, for all of you guys out there wanting to learn Thai, one of the biggest things that I've found is you need to learn vocabulary, right? So for me, it was really just learning words.
Yeah.
Because the actual structure of the sentences and the grammar is not that complicated.
Yeah.
So they don't conjugate any verbs.
Yeah.
All this, the adjectives, the different ones, doesn't exist. So
I found learning to read was like the key.
Learning to read is good,
Yeah.
right? Because if you can read, it kind of gives you a bit of an understanding on how the sentences are put together. But then on the other hand, it's more. I have a lot of mates, they speak Thai, which can't read.
Yeah.
So and they just kind of go through that vocabulary style of kind of learning, and I think. Pretty much in any language, really.
Yeah.
If you have a big vocabulary, you start to make sense of how it's all put together.
I mean, I must admit, and I do say this like tongue-in-cheek, but if you was to stand away and listen to you without you actually knowing that it was you speaking, I mean, you have got it nailed. You have got it nailed. Fair play. I'm
Cheers.
so jealous. But, I mean, obviously today, we're up here at the TPR Academy, which is the golf school that you've got here. And it's an incredible facilities. And all you golfers out there, guys, you've been nailing me, saying, come on, golf courses. This is your man. And we're going to talk a lot more about the TPR Academy. I mean, what a view you've got. I mean,
it's a nice office, isn't it?
I mean, it's not too bad, is it? Not too shabby. I mean, I don't know how that compares to your view, but to me, I'm looking at there thinking, wow, that's like all right. Something else. It really is.
Could be worse.
I mean, obviously, I know you as a friend, so I know you've got a long history in golf. I mean, tell me a bit about the golf. I mean, when did you first pick up a club?
When I was 7 years old.
7 years old, so a couple of weeks back then.
Yeah, just a couple of weeks ago,
And you didn't just pick up a club, did you? Because I mean, I know, you excelled, didn't you? I mean, you've reached the dizzy heights of being on the pros, and
Yeah.
I mean, how long did that take you?
Well, it's basically been pretty much a lifetime, really, right? So I started as a junior, got into like the elite group of the juniors that back home at the home country club at Switzerland, district team, stuff like that, and then actually tried to see if we could get into the national team.
Wow!
But I quit pretty early.
Okay.
Right? So after like 3 years of golf when I started, the whole thing just got too much for a young lad, dad really on you, and it's all right, golf is it, and this is what you need to do, right? So, and as a young lad, sometimes you just don't understand, right? That suddenly like other things like football, basketball, or hanging out with your mates, is a no-go anymore, right? Yeah. And I kind of lost the fun, and then I had a break for almost 8 years.
Wow!
Right, kind of here and there on the range, a bit of a whack around, but nothing crazy. And then I actually jumped back on it and started practicing again. Then actually came to Thailand and really fully committed myself onto practicing for 6 months. Got back down to a decent level, went back home, army, work. And then at some point sitting in Switzerland, looking outside, miserable weather, cold, snow, right? The whole thing.
You remember the cold?
Oh yeah, I can.
We think it's cold here when it's like 15 degrees.
I've been here so long now that I actually start missing it, right? But so then I just said, like, I need to do something different, right? And then I was thinking back at my junior days and also at the coach that I had here in Thailand, David Gom, who's actually, I think, back again in Thailand.
Oh, wow. Cool.
So we need to catch up with him, David. Yeah. So if you're watching this, I'll come see you soon, or you come see me at the old course anytime. So they all said, look, you've got some talent with this. Why don't you try to make something out of it? Chatted to my dad, who was in Thailand at the time, and went on from there, so came back and decided to really go practice hard, turn pro, started playing then, as you said, some professional tournaments, and it's kind of been in that shoes. I've never really been at the very, very, very top.
Well, you say that. I mean,
right?
Come on, let's be a bit more honest. I mean, to reach that level is just incredibly hard. I mean, it's just like thousands of people fall to the wayside and a handful succeed.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, it's not like, oh yeah, I just sort of give it a quick go and go for it. I mean, I want to ask you a question. Obviously, the one thing I think about golf, and maybe you guys watching will agree with me, is the margin for error is like so minuscule. It's incredible. You know, half a millimeter in the downswing and you're in the trees. I mean, fortunately for me, I don't deal with millimeters, I deal with more like feet, so I'm obviously in the next boundaries over there. But that incredible level of detail is immensely pressurized. How did you feel the very first time you teed off as a pro? I mean, were you like, oh,
yeah,
God.
I mean, I remember my first...
Did you duff your shot?
No, I actually hit a decent drive, but then it kind of curved off and actually dumped it in the water.
Oh, right? No.
So yeah, so that was
shot.
my very first experience in a professional tournament, and it was actually in Hua Hin here in Thailand. So we were at this golf course called Majestic Creek.
Yeah.
And I started, I think it was actually on the 10th hole rather than on the first. So they call out your name and, you know, from Switzerland, Tyrone Renggli on the tee, and then there's barely anybody around because it's not like a massive tour. So, but you still feel the jitters, right? Because guys are watching, other peers, pros are there with you. And then I have this tee shot that's literally about 250 yards over water, right? It's dog-leg puff hole. And the water just gets wider as it goes towards the left. And my miss is going a little bit left.
I can relate to that, don't worry.
So I hit this drive and I absolutely smoke it, right? So, going now, oh, great shot. And then as we keep watching it, it starts drifting off and off and off and off, and I'm like, oh no, right? Yeah. And it hits the bank, so it actually carried quite a long ways.
Wow. Yeah.
Hits the bank and jumps back into the water.
Oh, I bet you were gutted. So did you take the drop from there, or did
you had to re-tee from there, right?
And so how was your next shot?
That was all right. But I just like, okay, I'm not going to cut off as much of the water. I'll go a little bit more the safe route, and then.
And did you manage to save par on your first hole?
No, I bogeyed it.
Oh no, what an I mean, can you imagine that? You're there, the beginning of your professional career, you've duffed into the water and you bogeyed your first hole. And I bet you're thinking, well, this is a good start.
Yeah, it's great. But then I actually played quite well, you know, throughout the remaining days.
Yeah.
But it was interesting, you know, it kind of, even though you messed it up, it kind of lifted the pressure a little bit.
Well, yeah, I suppose you must have thought, well, it's going to get much worse.
You're out there and going, and I said, look, it's the first tee jitters are gone, right? So you just kind of keep on moving, really. Right? So.
Is it only the first tee? Because I get 18 jitters, and that's normally on every hole. You know.
Usually the jitters are staying longer the worse you are, right?
I mean, if I even get down the fairway, I'm thinking, what a great shot that was. You know, normally I'm in the trees or, like you say, in the water. I mean, I'm hopeless. I really am hopeless at golf. And I mean, in terms of like the golf side of things, I mean, what made you take up golf?
That's an interesting question. I think it was a little bit more my dad, because he kind of picked up the game first.
Okay.
Just with a couple of his mates, you know, went to the range and actually really started enjoying it. It actually got pretty good. He played all the way down to, you know, single figures.
Did he? Wow.
So he's a decent golfer. Still playing now, you know, going strong, 75 now, right? So not as healthy anymore with the legs and everything, but he got me into the game mainly. And it was basically, you know, he just asked me, you want to come to check out how golf is like?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, you know, so they had this junior program at our country club, and from there we just got to meet another lads that were my age, which I think is hugely important if you kind of want to get started, and that you have some other kids around you.
Yeah,
right?
definitely, yeah.
Because otherwise it could get really, really stale really quickly. And yeah, it just kind of went from there.
And like, I mean, I'm a father, so my son plays golf, as you know. And I can honestly say it is the most soul-destroying experience in the world when your son nails you at the game. How did your dad feel? Did he share my pain?
No, I don't think so. I think he was actually kind of happy that, you know, I started exceeding him at some point. It's just, well, he expects it, right? So because he's not really there practicing like, you know, every day in hours now, so he expects you to beat him at some point. You know, he was happy, but he still sometimes, if we play here and there now, it doesn't happen too many times anymore because I'm not playing much, more just coaching. He still gives me some shit for, you know, hitting a crappy one, right?
Do you know what? Honestly, and I hate to admit this, and it is a flaw of mine, but I'm super competitive, and like I've played my son Aiden, who plays at a very good level, and he's only 13. And when I duff it, I can see him, and he's looking the other way, and he's giggling, and I get so angry. And I'm like, I can see you laughing. It's not funny, you know. And he's just giggling away, and I'm like, how many years would I get in jail if I was to chin my lad for laughing at me, you know? But it's so destroying. And of course, as you know yourself, you know, when you make a bad shot, the pressure is then to make that next shot even better. And I just duff it even more, and I'm like, oh, this is just so
so he's got you on the wind there. You know, he knows which buttons to push.
I won't play him anymore.
Yeah,
I honestly won't play anymore. I love it. I get my camera and I say, come on son, off you go, and he goes off and plays, and I follow him. But I can't play him anymore. I am such a sulk. I really do. I have a real Teddy tantrum and I sit there sulking, and he's just giggling, and I'm like, oh, this is really not good. I mean, coming back to the golf, I mean, obviously we're here in Thailand. I mean, Thailand's got some incredibly beautiful courses. What made you come to Pattaya? Why here?
You know, again, one was because my dad was basically here, right? And he also loved playing golf, and he chose this place. Right. And you know, the crazy thing about it, I think, inside of an hour's drive, we have like 35 golf courses. Yeah. So it's really almost a bit of a mecca in Asia for golf, right? Yeah. Because a lot of people don't realize that. It's like, oh, well, Pattaya, they only think girly bars and you know, the whole thing. But for golf, it's a really, really cool spot.
I agree with that. And like you just said then, within an hour's drive, we really are spoiled for choice. I mean, in terms of choice, those guys that are watching that perhaps are coming here for the first time, you've played every course here. I mean, what in your opinion, and those of you that are watching, I know we're located here, but this is a non-biased answer. Where in your opinion are some of the best 3 golf courses that you really need to play if you're coming here to play golf?
In Thailand or in Pattaya?
In Pattaya, yeah.
Well, in Pattaya really is pretty much, in my opinion, is Siam Country Club, right? Because they've got fantastic golf courses. They have now, you know, they've got Old Course, which we are based at. They've got Plantation, Waterside, and Rolling Hills. So they have 4 golf courses located right next to each other. They're all top notch, and all different designs. So you really get something out of it. Then, apart from Siam, I would say Lemchabang Golf Course is quite nice. Burapa,
hilly though, isn't it? Really hilly, Burapa.
Quite hilly.
It is when you walk.
And I'll give you a top 5 instead of a top 3 if that's all right.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah.
So we have Siam, all 4, then Lemchabang, Burapa, Phoenix, and maybe Chichang. Right. So I think those are the guys that you need to see. Right.
Brilliant. Well, there you go. So there's your recommendations. Go check them out. And in terms of difficulty, I mean, are they the harder courses or are they fairly forgiving? I mean, are you likely to come in with a decent score?
It depends, obviously, which tees you're playing. You know, most golf courses now are kind of designed, if you play a little bit more off the forward tees, it just gets a little bit easier. The more further you go back, it gets a little bit harder. So, yeah, you know, they're not crazy difficult. Some of the Siam courses are pretty tough. Yeah. I would say Lemchabang is not easy. Yeah, but the other ones are all right. You know, it's nothing crazy.
So you've gone from a young lad excelling at the sport, trying your hand at the pro level, which was an incredible achievement to get to that level. It really was. And now you're here coaching in your own company, etc., which we'll cover a lot more in detail in a bit. I mean, what made you go into the step of coaching? You know, if you got to that level as a pro and then suddenly you come away and thought, you know what, I'm going to call it a day now. What made you go back into the coaching aspect?
Well, it's interesting. You know, when I failed my Asian Tour qualifying, I had a thought about this. So look, what am I doing here? You know, it's like, okay, it's cool with the lads to travel and play and compete with each other, but money-wise, it just was not there. I mean, I had a private sponsor that would help us out, close family friend, but still, you want to give something back.
Sure, yeah.
And I felt like I was just spending more money than I was actually making, especially on the smaller tours. You know, the purse is not that high. So it was cash and, you know, life and being able to support yourself. And on the other hand, I was compared to my mates, I was always a guy that enjoyed coaching. So I enjoyed helping people out, trying to learn the game and see them actually getting better at you know, moving on. Where some others that I know, you know, they say, well, it's the worst thing you could ever do, you know, to stand there and tell somebody how to swing a golf club. And I really enjoyed it. So I felt like, hey, I want to stick with golf, right? Because I've invested so much time of my life and hours into this game, and I love this game. So coaching was my next little.
And you've built a fantastic facility here. I mean, it really is like first class, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
And I mean, guys, if you are looking to improve your game, you know, I will put all the links and all the information below, but please come and have a chat with Tyrone. I mean, the facilities here that I'll show you, they really are second to none. I mean, when it comes to coaching and to giving instructions to golfers out there, I mean, what makes the TPR Golf Academy here so special? What makes it a step above all the others where you know that what you're going to give that person is first class?
Well, you know, I think it's just the experience of us being really top coaches. You know, we've worked with professional players. We've worked with kids that have won, for example, world championships, right? So we have a lot of experience at the very, very top level of this, so anybody can really benefit from it. And now also the setup what we have is, you know, with the cameras, all the gizmos and gadgets that we have, it's a very visual kind of learning. So you can see what this guy is actually talking about, and you understand it a lot quicker, rather than just kind of standing there at the driving range without anything and just kind of like trusting the guy to give you the right information. Sometimes you start questioning, but here it's very, very clear. It's a quicker way of learning, and we had a lot of success with it.
And you mentioned a minute ago about, obviously you work with a lot of professionals. I mean, who's the most famous golfer
that I work with?
That you've worked with?
Probably none that you can really know. I mean, one of my mates, which we helped each other both out a little bit with our games, Grant Jackson, English lad, and he was saying that he was almost ranked up to 300 or 290 in the world. Wow. So much more successful than I ever was. But he's now also coaching in China.
Is he? In China?
Yeah. So we've worked with each other. It's not like that I just coached him. It's like, you know, he helped me out with his swing, I helped him out with his swing. We shared the ideas a little bit. So that is probably the highest ranked player that I've worked with so far. Right.
But I mean, what an achievement, though. You know, just to be able to even coach these players at those kind of levels is just a fantastic achievement. It really is. And do you ever feel a bit overwhelmed thinking, I'm trying to tell this dude you need to be doing that, and he's probably thinking, can you do this?
In the beginning, I think I kind of was. You know, when you kind of go like, you know, this is actually a lot more successful player than you are. And you go ahead and see. But in the end, you know, you look at any coach-player relationship.
Very true.
You look at football, boxing, anything, right? The coach is not as good at doing these things that he wants the player to do as it is. So with me, it's just I have more knowledge about the golf swing and everything else around that these guys don't, so they come and seek out our advice.
I mean, it must be lovely to look at a player, look at his swing, his, you know, whatever particular part of his game you're looking at, and to know that you can improve him, and also that he can make those improvements as well, and then see the end result. You must think, that's brilliant. I mean, that must be so satisfying.
It's very satisfying, you know, and I think so far I would say I've seen more success with our juniors, you know. I mean, I've seen kids, you know, we've got this one lad who's here at the academy since he's 10 years old. Now he just turned 16. Wow. He's been a double world champion in the US.
I've seen him on your Facebook post.
His name's FIFA.
That's it,
So great lad. Then we have another couple of good upcoming players. I coached one girl to win another world championship.
Wow, fantastic.
She's now, I think, with a different coach at the moment. And wish her all the best, of course. But so from there, we had a lot of, you know, really cool success with the kids, and they keep on winning as well, you know. So it's cool, and I think that's almost giving us more enjoyment out of that.
I mean, I have to take you down now from coaching at that level to, like, what about someone like me? I mean, you know, guys out there that are watching, I'm hopeless at golf, so don't worry about that. But the point being, what I want to try and establish is somebody that maybe, say, like a 15 handicap or a 20 handicap that's coming here. I mean, how realistic is it them to expect you to make huge changes in their game? I mean, what kind of realism is that?
I think it's a very realistic thing. You know, I mean, obviously, bear in mind, we coach a lot of beginners and you know, like your mid-average handicapper to a complete, you know, like a shocker on the golf course.
That'll be me.
We have all of them, but it's definitely realistic to get better at your golf game. You know, it's like, it's just how much time can you know, tell yourself, all right, this is the amount of time I'm going to spend on trying to improve on golf. If it's not as much, it'll take longer. Right?
I think one of the questions that I'd like to ask, because maybe the guys out there that are watching this video, is when you look at a lesson, I mean, it really is as simple as sometimes a very minute change in your stance, your feet positioning, your balance, etc., can make an incredible difference, can't it? I mean, it really can make a huge difference. what would be my realistic expectations? I mean, if I'm coming here to learn, you know, people might think, oh yeah, I've got to do 10 lessons, 20 lessons, 50 lessons, whatever. But you really do make very quick changes in people's games, don't you? Very early.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd like somebody to walk out of the first lesson having a very clear image. Oh wow, I can actually really make a change with this. I understand where I need to go. So they have to have a very clear image. And they also need to be able to actually see themselves. That's why we've got the cameras in here.
Yeah.
That they can make the change that we'd like to see, right? Sometimes it's, as you said, you know, might be a lot of, and one of the things that I see a lot is just setup and posture and balance, because that really gets everything kind of started correctly.
Sure. Yeah.
Most amateurs are not setting up correctly, so everything has a bit of an effect.
I think for me
on
it's
how they take it
arthritis
back.
in my knees.
There you go, that also won't help.
That's why I bend like a banana. I have noticed though that they are cutting the trees over there. So did you say you were going to give me a lesson today? Because they seem to be taking all the trees out.
First I said, look, keep them high so the balls won't go out, right? And then they cut them anyway.
Brilliant, there you go. See, now if Tyrone can improve my game, which I would like to see, there you go. I mean, that's the inspiration for everybody. Well, listen, we're going to come to the end of part one. In part two, we are going to talk about a lot more about the details about how to come up here, what to expect, how it all works, what these cameras and everything do, and how it really does benefit you. So we are going to come back in part two. And in part two, I've got a nice little quiz for you. We'll see just how much you really do know about this sport.
Right.
And yes, Google is my best friend. I'm not going to lie.
So what's that quiz show? Jeopardy, right?
Jeopardy? What's
like
that
this
one?
I think it was this American quiz show.
Oh yeah.
Right. So maybe you're doing something like that. Maybe it's a new business model coming for you up there, mate. Quiz shows.
I think we just stick to me 5 questions and hope you don't know the answers. All right. That's about it. Listen, mate, it's been brilliant. Thank you so much for your time. Guys, please look at part 2, which will be out in a few days. All the information to come up here to the TPR Golf Academy, it will all be down there, links, etc., email addresses. Come up. If nothing else, just come up and have a look at this beautiful course. Fantastic scenery here. Have a chat with Tyrone. It costs you nothing to have a talk with him, and you know he'll give you his advice. Maybe swing a few clubs and you can have a look and think, do you know what, stick to playing pool or whatever, or you know, we can work through it. But all jokes aside, guys, please come up, have a chat with Tyrone. He's a fantastic guy. Arsenal fan, happy days. We'll talk about that in part 2. We will. And we're going to go from there. All right, that's it from us today here on the Coffee Chat on Buzzing Pattaya. Thank you very much for watching, and guys, please stay tuned for part 2, which will be coming out in a few days' time. Thanks very much.
See you in part 2.